Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to InsurTech Amplified. We are joined today by Sammy Rubin, a co-founder and the CEO at YuLife. Sammy, thank you so much for coming to the show. How are you doing today?
Such a pleasure to be here. I'm good. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I can't wait to have this conversation either. Look, your background in this industry is actually kind of interesting. Let's give our listeners a little bit of what that background is just so they can get some context, yeah?
Sure. So I started my first venture when I was 21. I started an insurance business with my late father. My late father was really interesting. He was a refugee from Poland. He arrived to the UK at the age of 8. And he started a business. He spent most of his career building a business manufacturing jewelry boxes. And that became boxes that people wore for cufflink boxes. People stopped wearing cufflinks in 1980. And that business stopped. At the age of 55, his business stopped. And he spent the next 8 years reinventing and looking for the next venture and looking for the next opportunity. And it wasn't an easy time, actually, growing up. I was a teenager at the time, growing up at home and seeing him trying. But at the age of 63, he came up with this idea of trading life insurance policies. At the time, this was endowment policies, which was a huge market, which was part of the mortgage market. And we built a marketplace for the second-hand trading of these insurance policies. I was at university at the time studying computer science, and I devoted my final year project for creating and writing the code to build a trading platform for these policies. And we built the business from our dining room table. And thank God it was successful. Within 5 years, we IPO'd the company. We floated the business on the full London Stock Exchange. I was the youngest director. I was the youngest CEO of a publicly listed financial services company at the time. I was in my 20s. And that was an amazing journey and a lot of learnings for me. However, after about 8 years of running that business, I experienced burnout. Physically, emotionally, mentally, I experienced burnout. That even though maybe to the outsider, I was enjoying some material success and the business was doing well, but inside I wasn't happy. I'd been pushing myself too hard, and I'd been focusing on the business performance at the expense of my own well-being. And I realized I needed to take a break. And I took a 6-month sabbatical, brought somebody in to run that business. And I spent that 6 months in the USA. I spent some time in Israel. And I spent time visiting different well-being wellness centers. I learned yoga. I learned meditation. I learned breathing practices. I changed my diet. I changed my lifestyle. And I realized how very small steps can have an enormous impact on our well-being. And went back to the UK. I sold that first business. I actually had met my wife, who was running a wellness center in Arizona at the time. We got married. We moved to Jerusalem for a few years. We had our first child there. I came back to the UK really passionate about building something that could marry my two passions, wellness and insurance. And then I was approached by Discovery Life. They were looking to start a new insurance company in the UK, and I became the founding CEO of Protect. This was the first life insurance company to reward healthy behavior. It's now rebranded Vitality Life. It's now in around 40 countries, and we were the very first to bring this concept to the UK. But my vision and my dream and my passion was to build a tech-driven insurance company that would inspire life, not just physical well-being, but mental well-being, and help businesses be their best selves and actualize the potential of our members and of businesses. And that was the birth of YuLife over 8 years ago now.
Sammy, I want to get to this in a second, but I have to ask you about this, and I'll tell you why. I often look around, so I'll be 60 years old this year. And I didn't go through the same exact experience as your dad, but by the time I turned 55, stuff was getting really rough. And if you imagine yourself, because you're probably not in your 50s yet, you're probably like 40 something, maybe late 40s, yeah?
Very wrong, man. I'm actually
30?
58.
Okay,
so I'm actually approaching 60. But
Okay,
yeah,
but I just want to go over this because I think this is really important because I think it's a real framework for understanding like just how hard life can get sometimes.
sure.
For a 55-year-old man to legitimately lose his business and not give up on life, I think is a testament to like a set of willpower that like can't be taught and
Yeah,
can't be learned.
you're
And I know
absolutely
this
right.
because I've been through it. And if you lose everything unexpectedly, like if you're not gambling and doing silly stuff, but just like doing the stuff you've been doing your whole life, and then one day it's just gone, to reinvent yourself at that age is insane. And
Yeah,
in a way, it's incredibly inspirational. But if you look around at all the guys today, like all of your friends, if you look at half of them, if they lost everything they had, they'd be lost. It's just a testament to your dad's sheer willpower to
yeah,
not give up. I know plenty of guys in Asia that went through the Asian financial crisis and they were in their 50s and they lost everything and they just didn't have the will to continue.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, absolutely. I think it's a testament to his resilience. He went through a interesting childhood. He
For
came as a
sure.
refugee to Poland. He didn't see his father till he was 8 years old. His
Yep.
father was already left Poland before the Second World War, and he joined his father
Unbelievable.
when he was 8. And so he grew up very much as a self-driven. He had to learn a new language. He left
Yep.
school at 16 and had to really make money to support his parents, actually, who themselves were refugees. And he had enormous resilience. You're absolutely right. He also had a family to look after. There were three
Yeah.
of us. I had two other siblings, and he was in his 50s, and he had responsibilities, enormous resilience, and an entrepreneurial spirit. And he was not afraid to go into an industry that he had no experience. He went into the insurance industry, which was something he really didn't know about, but he was self-taught. And I think the idea that he didn't go to a business school, he didn't go to university, he was proud that he never passed an exam in his life in any type of sort, but he himself was a pioneer and he was resilient, and he shows that you can build anything really you want if you have true determination, if you have grit, and you have strong purpose and strong values.
Yeah.
And he's a testament to that.
I just wanted to point that out because I think it's really important, but it probably also informs the way you behave. And one of the reasons why you're so interested in not just your own well-being, but other people's well-being, and using the sort of platform of insurance to be able to deliver that to people, and all the things you learned about yourself with the burnout and the sabbatical that you took, and how you kind of rebuilt your life in a way that was more healthy.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you married your wife because you met her at a wellness center. That is rocking cool, actually. But what do you take from that? And also the building of Vitality, right? Which is now, like you said, a super large company and a very successful company. But what do you take from all of that into the building of YuLife? And what is like the special sauce there from your perspective? Remember, we've had a couple of your co-founders on the
Yeah,
show already, but I wanted to talk to you because I want to get a different sense of what's going on.
sure. There's so many elements, I think, that contribute to the success of YuLife, but maybe I'll just pick on one right now.
Please.
And that is that well-being, the idea of well-being, has been often seen as something reserved for just the certain few, for the elite, for the wealthy. It's if you can afford a gym membership, or if you can go to a retreat and do some yoga, some mindfulness meditation, and you need to take time out of your routine to really look after your wellness. And I think
Yeah.
well-being has often been seen as a luxury. And I think one of the things I learned myself is actually very much about small steps and small habits done on a consistent basis can have a huge impact. And what we've done at YuLife is in a way, we've taken that principle around well-being, about making it simple, making it accessible, making it even fun and engaging. And we've turned that into an art. We've turned that into a science in a way. We've gamified that whole experience. And we've encouraged people just to take time out, 5-minute walk during the day, a 10-minute breathing exercise before they go to bed, before they go to sleep, to help them sleep well at night. And we've created a lot of joy and story and narrative and just inspiration and joy around that model. And I think that has been one of the core attributes to our success, that we've taken well-being out of this box, this mysterious box, and we've just made it very down to earth, very grounded, very accessible. And I think that's why we're reaching so many people in such a powerful way.
Can I back up for a second? Because you've chosen your words very carefully. You didn't say you want to make people healthy, which I think there's a distinction here.
Yeah.
And you're shaking your head, which I like. I just wanted to point out this distinction, right? Because we can spend a lot of time talking about well-being, but you went all the way into, at the beginning of the story, talking about being burned out, which is not about being unhealthy per se, but definitely affects your well-being. So maybe you can kind of define what that means and how it's different than just being healthy. Because to me, like your mental health, your physical health, your financial health, these are all part of your well-being at some level. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Well-being, again, there's some other businesses focus on what does it mean to be healthy. You've got to be sort of athletic, and it's all about physical well-being. First of all, we see emotional and mental well-being as important as physical well-being. And that is very important, are the metrics by which we measure well-being within our app, and very much. And the core quests, the core challenges that we ask people to do is simply walking, which is like good for your health and your heart rate and everything, and also mindfulness breathing. But we've always equated the two from the very beginning. The idea of doing mindfulness meditation and breathing for your mental well-being, we see as important as your physical well-being. And then obviously well-being is also around your financial well-being, because people not having their finances sorted in terms of having the right protection in place, the right insurance in place, that gives a certain peace of mind, that helps, that contributes to one's overall well-being. And the fourth component of well-being that we talk about is social well-being, because one can be the best athlete, one could be looking after one's diet, one could be actually mentally, one could be feeling present, but there's an epidemic of loneliness. And people are lonely, and people are spending time spending time themselves, and often caught up in their own minds, caught up in their own thoughts, their mental thoughts about other people. And the idea of fusing social cohesion, encouraging people coming together, encouraging people to have positive engagements as a community, these are all the things that contribute to well-being. It's physical, it's mental, it's social, and it's financial. And fusing all these together, which is what we've tried to do through our app at YuLife, is, I think, something that really is making that powerful impact.
What's the spiritual and sort of, you use this word, community aspect of this? Like, how does YuLife help those things? Spirituality is something that's very personal, but community is something that's very communal. Obviously, it's in the word. How do those things go together? And what's the real power there on the app of building that community? Like, how does that work?
Well, we, at the moment, our model is to cover businesses. So we will go into a business, let's say 500 employees, and we will YuLife covers those employees with group life insurance. And every employee, each member of that company, will have the ability to have access to the YuLife experience. And within the YuLife experience, we've created a currency of well-being called YuCoin. You earn YuCoin through very simple activities, like I said, like walking and breathing, doing brain training. And what we've created is we've created leaderboards within the business so that you can actually compete against your colleagues, and you can build relationships now with your colleagues. And there may be a colleague of yours in finance or another department that maybe you've never really spoken to, but you can engage with now through the app. You build your avatar. You can have a relationship with one of your colleagues, and you can duel them. You can challenge them to a duel. Let's say, how many steps can we walk the next day? You can challenge them for pride. You can challenge them for bragging rights or for YuCoin. And those types of leaderboards is just one example of a way where you create a community. And there's so many stories of people that it actually tears down some of these boundaries or hierarchies. Often there's hierarchies in companies, and at one level, let's say, they wouldn't imagine talking or engaging with the CEO. And we know that through our app and through the leaderboards and through the gamification, it provides a framework, an arena, a conversation that people can have at every level within a company. How many steps have you done? Did you do that challenge? How fast did you do this brain training? And it becomes something that creates a social cohesion, a community, which is so important within business and within company life.
When you go into these companies and you give them the platform, they start working with YuLife, do you see real behavioral change? Do you know what I mean? Because this is key. Again, I'm not selling for anybody, right? But I have an Apple Watch. I haven't worn another watch before I bought this one. I bought it like 3 or 4 years ago. I hadn't worn a watch in like 50 years. I don't wear jewelry. I don't really care. But just having this thing here telling me like what my heart rate is, what my sleep is, all this information that it gives me, it doesn't build a community per se, but boy, it sure has changed my behavior. I'm like, I need to go for a run today because I didn't do that yesterday and I'm feeling a little bit like a sloth. But I'm curious what the uptake is on the app that you see and how does it change the behavior of the people inside the company once they do it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this is one of my favorite things that I do, often the weekends or late at night, or when I'm even feeling, let's say, a bit down myself or a bit overpressurized. I go onto our user reviews. There's many platforms where we're getting reviews from our users as to their experience of the app. And you go to Trustpilot, and we've got a Trustpilot rating of 4.9 stars out of 5, which we're really proud of. And we see there hundreds and hundreds and thousands of reviews, and you go in there and you just see how YuLife is helping me sleep at night. I've been suffering from insomnia, and because through the sleeping meditations that you do before I go to sleep and through this just calm breathing, I'm sleeping much better now than I've slept in years. People are saying that they've lost weight. Sometimes just a few pounds, sometimes tens of pounds. We've got one member who works for our company who's lost 10 kilograms of just through walking and just through using the YuLife app, just through basic doing those simple everyday steps has enormous impact. Physical well-being, mental well-being. People are using their meetings now often. They're having walking meetings. So they're going out in nature rather than just being in the office all day. They'll go out for a half an hour. They'll have a meeting in nature, walking. They're both getting some exercise. They're building a community. They're having a conversation. They're doing a challenge in the app. And they're feeding back that they're feeling better. They're feeling more productive. They're happier at work. Their overall well-being is better. They're sleeping better. And this is the feedback that for me is everything. It's why we started the company and that's part of our whole mission and our purpose.
It's interesting to me. If you remember from our prep call, I said to you, and I say to everybody that goes through one of those prep calls for all of my shows that, educated, hardworking people can be good at anything, but to be great at something, you really have to care about it. And it's like, and I think I told you, like, I want to be able to tease out like why you care about this. I think you win. I don't think it's much of a question anymore. And it's awesome. Tell me it's not an awesome feeling as well, right? Because I do a business that's public facing too. And when I get positive feedback, it makes me feel great, right? Like when I have somebody call me and say, a venture capitalist heard our recording and then called me to see like if they could invest in the company, or if a VC calls and says, hey, we just made an investment in this company a year ago because we listened to the show. Like that stuff makes me happy. It's not nearly on the same level. On the same level, but it's at least positive feedback. And for you, this idea that you can help people become, I don't want to say just more healthy, but just like meeting those 4 components of your definition of well-being is just a really powerful feeling. And like you said, when you get tired and a little bit worn out, you can lean on that a little bit to just go, we need to keep doing this. Yeah.
Thank God. And and it's so much down to the team that we have at YuLife, and it's down to the people that work at YuLife, really, because we have a very clear mission and a clear purpose. And our purpose is to inspire people to live their best lives, to inspire people to live their best lives. Every Monday morning, we have a ritual. I speak for 15 minutes. We have a gong in the morning, 9:30. Different people volunteer. We do a yacht gong. We do a couple of just mindfulness breathing, just to be present because we're starting the week. And then we focus or we connect to why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we working here? What are we actually doing here? Are we just shuffling paper around? Are we just doing administrative tasks? Or are we on a mission? And our mission is clear, and it's something I reiterate every Monday morning, is to inspire people to live their best lives. And thank God, fortunately, over the years, we've attracted to the company so many great individuals and great people who embody the vision, who believe in the values. And therefore, it becomes easy in a way because we're all on the same mission, we're all on the same vision, and therefore we're building a product that actually inspires people and inspires their well-being. We're building marketing materials, we're building customer service that all manifest that. So yeah, it's very much something I'm enthused about. And it's something which is really the DNA of our culture, is to attract people and to build a purpose-driven company. And then to see the fruits of that through these reviews and people actually in experiencing this engagement from YuLife is something which is truly satisfying.
How hard does it get? So look, I run a company now as well. I'm a business builder, but my company is much smaller than yours and a little bit younger than yours as well. And as we grow, we wonder, how do we maintain, what's the right way to say this? Yeah, that culture of like the way we like to work. How do we make sure that we bring people in that aren't I don't want to say disease, right? But aren't a virus, but add to the power of it. And as you get bigger, look, when the five of you started the company, it was pretty obvious like who cared and who didn't care. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't have done this. And you've worked together before, right? So that was, I wouldn't say the easy part, but you knew what you were getting. But every time you bring somebody in, you take this risk of, are they going to work out? And you don't want to be in the business of like constantly firing people because the instability is not great for growth either.
Sure.
You don't want to give people I'm really asking for myself, but like, you don't want to give people a culture test. Like, how do you do that as you grow? Because again, when you're young, the CEO or the founders can be involved in every decision about who gets hired. But at some point, some people are working virtually. Some people aren't even in your country. You have to delegate stuff. Like, how do you do that well? Sure, and I'm asking because you've built a few companies. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's such a great question. And as in terms of, I agree with you that success generally is all about people. And that doesn't mean just success financially, but it's true inner success. The feeling of the meaningful success that we have, which is beyond the financial success, the success of actually building something worthy, that comes down to the journey that you're on with the people around us. And therefore, choosing those people and being surrounded by people who are like-minded, who share those values is absolutely crucial. And that's why recruiting, I would say, is probably the most important task, the most important function that we do as a company, to find and to exactly what you're saying, to culture check those people. And that's why from the beginning till now, we have at least two founders, 2 out of the 5 founders, 2 of us will have to meet every person before there's a hire. Even now, and there's hundreds of people, we've made hundreds of recruitments, we still get involved. There's 2 founders that will get involved in every single hire. And that's the vibe check, because we've been around, all of us, all the people who've been there from the start know what we call them. I call them YuLifers, people who sort of automatically, intuitively, they kind of are walking the values that we believe with, because it's much harder to bring somebody in who's not like that, who's not, let's say, a naturally kind person or a curious, but we look for curious people, we look for out of the box people, we look for people who can empathize, who are kind. And somebody who comes in, it's much harder to shape that person than if they've already got those qualities. So we're already looking and seeking out through our conversations. And it's something, I mean, I can pick it up now within about 90 seconds of meeting somebody. Is this a good fit? You know, you just get it. It's like, it's quite a quick, it's quite easy. You like get it after a while. It's like a reflex. It's like an instant. Yeah. It's like pattern recognition. You kind of just say, yeah, this person, fits. But thank God we've got a great senior leadership team beyond the founders now, and we've got a great management team. So, and everyone kind of over the years now, we know what it is to be somebody who works at YuLife.
It's interesting that you say this, and I'll give you two completely different examples, but places where I feel like, okay, now I understand this. I think I said this to you before we started recording today. I mean, I've done thousands of interviews of startup founders, and I feel like I can tell, like in the first 5 minutes, if they're going to build a decent business or not. Do you know what I mean? Because I could just, I really can. Because I can tell if they care. And if I
Yeah.
know the guys and gals that are just building something, like you've never mentioned, and actually none of the founders from YuLife that I've spoken to have ever mentioned to me, like what the valuation of the company is, how much money you raised, or any of that stuff. Because at some level, it doesn't seem like you care. I mean, sure, it has impact. Everybody wants to get paid and you have families to take care of. I get it. But no one's even talked about it. It's just about the mission behind it and why you desperately want to build this thing. And plus, you come out of an experienced background in the insurance industry, so you kind of know where the holes are and you want to fill in those gaps. And I guess the hiring is the same way. If somebody walks in and you can tell if they're just not a culture fit, I mean, maybe they're having a bad day, but probably not. That's probably like, because they're on their best behavior, they're being interviewed, right?
Yeah.
And I think about my entry, again, I don't mean to talk so much, but I think about my entry into Goldman Sachs. Again, a company with a very strong and distinct culture, which I loved, actually, to be fair. And I probably had 30 interviews. And when I look back on it now, after listening to you talk, I'm thinking, in a way, nobody really asked me about like my skill set. They just kind of took that for granted. I think they were just trying to see if I fit in with a bunch of different people. And I think that's the key. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so, because it's about teamwork ultimately, and the best creation comes through co-creation, and it's working with others, vibing off others, and creating that culture. And it's something that we've looked to do through various ways, because as we've grown, we've built also a remote, like a hybrid way of working. So we have many people working in different countries. So we're not all together physically. And therefore, how do we actually do that? And we've done that through creating rituals during the week. So we have certain rituals. On a Monday morning, I spoke to you about our ritual that we kick off on a Monday morning, and with an inspirational talk, which doesn't talk about KPIs, key performance indicators, or business metrics. It's about a story or a value or something that's going to touch our heart, something meaningful that will inspire us and frame the coming week. Because we all know work is not easy. It's difficult. It's challenging. But therefore, framing what we do within a bigger purpose, being part of something bigger, I think helps all of us to actually thrive and sometimes survive the week, but more than survive, hopefully thrive. On a Thursday afternoon, we're gathering, in fact, soon after this conversation now I'm going into, we have an all hands where we come together as led by our co-founder, Sam, and we have shout outs where each person gives shout outs to their colleagues, and they show a gratitude, they show appreciation. We have one of our values to give more than we take, and to act with gratitude, and to actually shout out each other. So it's creating that atmosphere of community. And then we have proper business updates, how things are going, and we have different updates from different teams. Then we have something called Knowing Me, Knowing You. Knowing you with obviously why you, knowing me, knowing you. And somebody different will spend 5 minutes talking about their family, their background, their working day, and something that you wouldn't know about them. And therefore, we pepper the week with these different rituals that creates communities wherever you are in the world. And then we have also, once a year, we have a festival that we bring people together from different countries. We come together physically, and we have a celebration of our purpose, of our culture, and also a well-being experience as well, so that we look to walk the talk. We'll do some meditation together. We'll do some ice baths together. We'll do something a little just take us out of our comfort zone. And it's this combination of rituals and coming together with events that I think creates this sense of spirit and community.
This is so interesting to me. Look, I've lived and worked in Asia for 30 something years. And I studied Japanese when I was in college. I lived in Japan for 22 years, and plenty of the guys and gals that came into Japan for just like a year or two never kind of fit in. Like fitting into the Eastern cultures are just really hard. Like there were some guys that would literally ask, like, how come the Japanese don't eat with a fork and a knife? Like, what's this chopstick stuff? I don't get it. Right.
Wow.
And but there are plenty of cultural reasons why. I'm curious, as you expand outside of like the Western world, what some of the cultural challenges are of bringing all these people together to understand, because this idea of in the US, right, and in Europe as well, this idea of me and you, share me, share you, I can't remember the exact terms you use, is really straightforward. But getting a Thai person no matter how great their English is, to stand up and to tell you something about their family would almost be like pulling teeth in most cases.
Yeah.
But it's still an important thing to do. But how do you, because this is going to be something you guys as a team need to think about as you grow globally. Like, what are the differences between, I'm just going to use general terms like East and West, because the cultures are so different. How do you think about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's so important. I'm actually looking here at this book that we often refer to. It's called The Culture Map. It's an amazing, amazing book which actually sets out how people think and lead and getting things done across different cultures. And it's something that we
I'll read it.
study a lot about the different
I love you
cultures.
guys.
I mean, obviously
Yeah.
the West and the East, I mean, are so different where it comes to all of this. I mean, the West is very focused on the I, on the individual. And it's all about elevating the individual, and that concept of self-actualization is something which is kind of embedded into the culture of the West.
Yeah.
In the East, it is different. You know, it's much more about, it's less about the self. It's actually giving value to objects and to other items and to
the group.
And to the group, very much about the group. And therefore, we are building the apps, various certain tweaks and certain variations across the cultures to take into account these different cultural differences. For example, let's say the avatars in the app. In the West, somebody will make an avatar and they will do the avatar to look exactly like they would look. And it's all about trying to look exactly the right way and maybe in the best way, that they're the hero. They're the hero, and it's me.
Right.
And in the East, we're seeing that people will look at avatars in a different way, that they actually don't want to. They wouldn't choose to maybe put an avatar in their own image. They would actually build an image of their avatar into maybe something they venerate, something else, maybe an animal, or maybe a different, in a way, persona, which actually they will, revere. And we have the whole philosophy of Shintoism in Japan, obviously, and the whole philosophy of seeing the divine, of seeing within life itself and within the sacredness of nature and trees and animals and objects. I mean, the way we've actually created our app is very much actually, it's built around a journey that you go through the forest and the ocean, the desert, the mountains. You encounter these animals, and each of these animals represents different values, different qualities, which actually help you become your best self. And that is actually resonating very well in the East. So there's certain aspects of YuLife which talk to different audiences. What we're trying to do is to create an experience that talks globally in a way, but talks to the individual soul and is cognizant and is respectful of each culture.
I like it. I may have this right. So the Philadelphia Eagles, right, an American football team, won the United States Super Bowl, the NFL Super Bowl for the second time this year. And their coach, who everybody seems to think is a little bit weird, I don't have an opinion, has said to his team since he started coaching them a couple of years ago, you cannot be great without the greatness of others. And I think that's kind of one of the things that you were alluding to earlier, which I think is a great thing to say. I want to ask you one more thing because I don't want to take up so much more of your time. But when we were prepping, you mentioned this concept of like spirituality as an untapped power. Why don't we end on that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think we talk about spirituality enough, but spirituality, when I talk about spirituality, I talk about, in a way, what is our meaning? We've got a body, we've got a physical self, we've got thoughts, we've got an emotion, but we've also got a soul. And our soul is really our true identity. And each person can connect and have a relationship with their soul. Their soul is what gives us meaning, what gives us purpose, what gives us fulfillment beyond the physical and emotional and mental, even the relationships that we have in community. But there's a side of spirituality that is often forgotten in our culture, not spoken about. But it's something which is actually unspoken often. But it's a sense, it's an experience. It's something when we're around that spirit, when we're around a beautiful nature, a beautiful waterfall, or in the presence of a holy person, or in a stunning landscape view, we suddenly feel something, an awe, a sense of bigger than us, something that we're tapping into, which is bigger than just our business success and our performance, but we're tapping into something really, really deep. And in a way, it's that spirituality, that's something that inspires, in terms of us, in terms of what we're building, the vision of inspiring people to live their best lives.
Yeah.
It's really about connecting to that spirit as well. And that's done often through the body, and it's done through our thoughts, and it's done through mental, but it's also about taking time to nurture our spiritual selves, our sacred. It's often a private time, but it's something that is so true, and it's so much part of our being. And we're really happy that we've found partners throughout the world, whether it be investors or through indeed our partners at Daiichi in Japan. We're working very closely, for example, with Stephen, who's our chief information officer. And these are great partners, people who really are imbued with values of wanting to make a difference in the world, really using insurance and seeing insurance not just as a product that just protects people when things go wrong, but actually can be used to bring value every day and to help shape a better society, make a difference to people's lives, and help them, physically, emotionally, even spiritually, connect to something bigger than ourselves, and hopefully become who they can be, their best selves. And that is really at the heart of everything we're doing.
I'm really glad we ended there. Sammy Rubin, a co-founder and CEO at YuLife. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. That was awesome.